is a god? Can you easily define them based on years of religious study and philosophical intrigue? Fuck no, you can't. So many cultures have them, but there's no one correct definition. Some deify mountains, rivers, people, abstract concepts, or all of the above. They may have come before humanity, often the credit for creation, or after as an anthropomorphic explanation of the unexplained. I've often said there's 1001 ways to view the gods, which is true. We don't know if, when, what, or how about the gods. Not with 100% certainty. Most proof is anecdotal, but belief can have purpose, and we'll get there. But first, a few possibilities. Inerrancy. Inerrancy, or literal belief, is what we're probably most familiar with. The Christians and Muslims are especially known for this. I can't speak to Islam, but in Christianity, there's a faith Olympics to see who believes the hardest. Often new denominations will pop up, splintering into zealous accusations of, "You're not believing the right way, therefore heresy." This is one of the few things I'll really push against in heathenry. The room for abuse alone is abhorrent. The Seventh-day Adventists, for example, based their black and white inerrant views on a woman who had visions due to epilepsy. That denomination gave birth to David Koresh of the Branch Davidians in Waco, as well as the Anthill Kids, a cult ran by Canadian Roque Thorold. Both cults committed terrible atrocities. Hard theism. Stepping away from the extreme, a more reasonable viewpoint is hard theism. Not necessarily inerrant in their views, hard theists believe their god or gods aren't literal in the way that we see with inerrancy. They may not necessarily believe their deity's lore is literal. It's a rare case that I see hard polytheists seek physical proof the way Christians use junk science to prove Noah's Ark or build a whole museum denying evolution. No, hard polytheists are not science deniers. Rather, they simply believe that gods are separate entities with agency. They believe gods are separate entities. Thor and Shango may be similar, but are not the same dude. I'm not sure how they justify the similarities, but that's part of the philosophical intrigue of belief. The important thing isn't what you believe, but rather the questioning and journey of belief. One example of hard polytheism is omnitheism, the belief in all the gods. This also includes long-forgotten and undiscovered gods, a challenge for Reconstructionists. Soft polytheism. In soft polytheism, the idea is that all gods descend from one source. This could be one god, like Kemet or Hinduism, both of which predate the Proto-Indo-European descendants, yet share many similarities. Kemet, the name for ancient Egypt, believes all gods disseminate from Ra, the sun god. Hinduism believes that all gods disseminate from Brahma. We have a lot more information from the Hindus, as they still exist unbroken. Kemet has a lot of reconstruction, including Kemetic orthodoxy. Kemetic orthodoxy is controversial among Kemetics, partly because their leader considers herself their pharaoh, which means she's Horus incarnate. She also assigns spiritual parent deities to people in their organization. Both these things raise red flags for me. I don't have anything against them, I just don't believe anyone other than yourself should dictate your spirituality. Soft polytheists tend to agree with the next viewpoint. Archetypal polytheism. This is the line I fall on. Not quite soft polytheism, as I don't believe in one source necessarily, but rather a primordial pantheon that all gods disseminate from. I waver on agency of individual gods, as free will is open for dispute. Man can do as he will, but he cannot will as he will. Essentially, we can only react or act upon sensory input we already have or are experiencing. I believe it's possible that the gods have this level of agency, but the source of archetypal polytheism is archetypal analysis, comparative mythology and religious beliefs and practices in order to figure out what that source pantheon may have been like. I really only chipped at the tip of this infinite iceberg, but as we'll see, the journey is more important than the conclusions. And I've mentioned before, archetypes are simply the bones of the gods. From arche, original, precursor, ancient, and type, model, form, shape, that the meat, flesh, garb, and personality of the plethora of diverse cultures form around the psychological concept of the archetypes, and that forms the gods. Egregore. An egregore is similar to the Buddhist tulpa, an energy construct created on purpose or by accident that creates a being. One more modern example is chaos magic. Chaots will create their own egregores as servitors for magical purposes. The belief is also that enough people believing something can create an egregore, as though the psychic and magical energies inherent in people collect and create a being. New religions can do this on accident, but a concept can also become sentient with enough energy. If you know Warhammer, this will sound familiar. It's apparent that the creators of Warhammer were massively influenced by chaos magic. A more ancient example is Kabbalah, the mystic side of Judaism. I don't know how prevalent it is, but I do know Jewish people, just like Hinduism, promote discussion rather than dictatorial beliefs. One heathen I know who was raised in Judaism said they would spend days just discussing the meaning of a word, and weeks on a sentence, something I think we should all adopt. But one thought in Kabbalah is that man influences God rather than God influencing man. While they don't necessarily use the term, this is essentially what an egregore is, or can be, when in relation to a deity. Euhemerism. Euhemerus of ancient Greece leads to the name of this term. He posited that hero worship could lead to deity worship. In heathenry, we see this with Bragi and Voland. Bragi is the god of skalds. He's said to have been a skald of such greatness he ascended to godhood. Voland, also called Wayland the Smith, was a blacksmith who became Alfar upon death. He's now regarded as the Norse god of smithing. I'll eventually be dedicating a video to him. Snorri Sturluson tried to justify the Norse pantheon with Christian faith in the beginning of his Edda through false etymology and Euhemerism. But it's likely bullshit, just a Christian trying to discredit the old gods. But Euhemerism is valid. Many gods of many pantheons may in fact be honored dead, loved ones and revered people who were so beloved they were deified, probably after they passed. Vatir and other spirits. Another possibility is the reverence of local land spirits, house spirits, etc., being deified. Vatir is the Norse term, but in religions like Shinto, we see deified mountains and streams. Their kami are called gods by some, and something separate from the term by others. But as we've seen, God is a vague umbrella term. Summary. As I've said before, it's less important what you believe, and more important that you question and wonder. Through my research, I'm constantly wavering on what I believe. Your beliefs should never be adamant and never be stagnant. I wrote an article that I'll link below on the different centers of paganism. We're all looking for something different. Our various paths require different things. I'd say it's more likely that the gods vary in origin and nature. Some may be separate entities, and others may be revered heroes. It's plausible that Voland embodied the archetype of the smith, and that now he shares the archetype of the smith with gods like Vulcan, Hephaestus, and Gobanus. I'll find out more when I do the deep dive. I'd say the one thing we do know, even though it's soft science, is that the gods are archetypal in our minds. I don't believe they've ever left us. I believe they still appear in our media and stories. But even that is up for scrutiny. We must question everything with a scientific mind. In science, a theory is the highest something can be, but new information can change or disprove a theory. Nothing is an absolute reality. All are permitted. Skull!